I told folks this 40 years ago. Now, some of you were not around 40 years ago. Some of you did not know us 40 years ago. But for those who are older friends, even older partners of our ministry, they will absolutely remember 1984. In 1984, I came across some very interesting information from a organization out of the state of Texas. And there was a man that was in the country of Israel that had permission to excavate some of the caves near the Qumran area. He became intrigued with the copper scroll. The copper scroll was one of the scrolls that was found in the Qumran caves, and it was sent to the country of Jordan, and it was later opened, and it told about hiding places of treasure. Now, included in that scroll, and also included in some research information that this man did in 1984, he believed that it was possible that in one of the Qumran caves in the Judean wilderness, a very large cave, that there was something called the kalal, which was hidden. Now, the kalal was a container that held the ashes of the last red heifer, which had been burnt in Israel prior to the destruction in 70 AD, and according to his research, had been hidden somewhere in a cave in Israel. Well, we were going to Israel about that time. I met the particular individual. I visited the site of the cave several times, and there were some interesting things found there. But this kalal, as it's called, which is the container for the last red heifer, was never found. However, I began to teach. Now, I asked them, or should I say my office manager asked them, to see if they could find evidence where people would know I was telling them the truth, that I preached this 40 years ago. And what we found was this says Sunday night, second week, this was a revival. We don't even know where it was. I haven't listened to this, by the way. Ashes of the red heifer. In 1984, 85, 86, 87, 88, I was teaching this particular message on prophecy night in our meetings. It was very intriguing. It was extremely interesting. But I remember being mocked and ridiculed and criticized for it, because I was telling people that in the tribulation, there would be a temple built. Matthew 24, 2 Thessalonians 2, Revelation chapter 11. And I personally believe that the two witnesses will be a part of the rebuilding process. But I told them that it would require a ceremonial purification, or the water of purification, to sanctify any kind of furniture or the temple itself based on the laws of the Torah. Specifically, Numbers chapter 19. And in Numbers 19, it gives you the entire process of the burning of a red heifer. Now, for Christians, this is not a major deal. Prophetically, it could be, but for Christians, Numbers 19 is a picture of the crucifixion of Jesus in great detail. And I taught that back in the 1980s. Well, I'm telling you, I was lampooned, lambasted, mocked, ridiculed, misunderstood for this one message. It was almost horrible to even have to deal with the persecution that I received, until Time magazine did an article in the late 1980s on the ashes of the red heifer and the necessity of the rebuilding of a Jewish temple to have those ashes. Well, it was humorous, but I started receiving apologies from some of my best friends for saying, "Perry, you were right all along about this. We were the ones that were wrong." Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is there has been this huge resurgence with people that are on their YouTube videos discussing and talking about the ashes of the red heifer. And I have received emails. Tell Perry to look into this. Has Perry heard about this? Does Perry know about the importance of this? Yes, I told folks 40 years ago about the significance of the red heifer. What has stirred people up is there are individuals in the United States that have been breeding the red heifers, and they've sent them to Israel. And there's several of them that are being looked at for the possibility of this particular sacrifice. Now, the point I'm sharing this with you, and the reason I'm sharing this with you, is there is so much absolute speculation and misinformation on this subject that I felt like someone who had the knowledge of 40 years should come and say several things to you. First of all, if a red heifer is burnt, it just can't be burnt immediately. It has to be 3.5 years old. and it has to have no blemish whatsoever, including it has to be all red. In fact, we went to a farm years ago when they were discussing the red heifer, and we'll show you pictures of this. This is many, many years ago. I think it was in the 1990s. And there was a young rabbi there that was showing us the heifer, but he showed us one that was disqualified because the tail had turned white. It's not just a red cow, it has to be without blemish. So point one, they can't just get a cow and burn it. They've got to watch it it has to be 3.5 years old, in other words, and it has to be without blemish. Now, the second thing is that just because they have the ashes of a red heifer does not indicate they're going to go into the immediate rebuilding of the temple. I have heard some of the most ludicrous, ridiculous ideas on the rebuilding of a temple that you've ever heard in your life. And again, these are people that are, they call themselves YouTube influencers. And what they really are people that just jump on the bandwagon when something is hot, trying to get their viewership up. But they don't have the research or the proper research connected to it. Asher Kaufman, a professor from Hebrew University, and I don't know if Dr. Kaufman is still alive or he still teaches. He was up there in years when I found this out many years ago from my dear friend Mike Coleman, who had dinner with Professor Kaufman. But Professor Kaufman pointed out that if a temple were to be rebuilt, it's not a massive structure, it's not that large, but it would take 3.5 years for the process, not for building it. But you have to do certain things on the Sabbath, certain things on the new moon. You have to wait 3.5 years to burn the heifer. You would have to have furniture that would be made. So all of this is a process. So there's not going to be next month a temple built in Jerusalem on the Temple Mount. First of all, it would cause a major world war. This happens the first 42 months of the tribulation period. And when Daniel 9:27 says he causes the sacrifice to cease, and the Antichrist invades the city, it is at the dedication of a Jewish temple, and the Antichrist, whom I believe has an Islamic background, will invade Jerusalem in the middle part of the tribulation period. Now, I do not have, because we looked for it, the old two-tape album. I had every two-tape album I've ever done, and that one has disappeared. And I'm telling the truth. They tore the place up yesterday. All the vaults, all the places where we kept things. And this is so old, we don't have any cassette machines. So we can't make you a copy of this. So please don't ask us for a copy of this. But from time to time, we will do particular teaching, and we will bring out these type of things. So if we do that at some point, or if you'd like for us to do an entire teaching on it at some point, maybe on a Manna-Fest telecast, to help you understand what we know about this, we would be glad to set aside the time to do that. But let's go back to the point. This is nothing new. This is not a new revelation. This is not breaking news from Israel. This has been known for 40 years and been taught that long, especially in the 1980s and 90s in our ministry. Now, once again, let me make it clear that the ashes of the red heifer are no significance for Christians other than Numbers 19, read it being a picture of the crucifixion of the Messiah. When it comes to Jewish people, some of them don't even know about this, but it's the religious Jews who know the Talmud, the Mishnah, the Gemara, the Zohar, Kabbalah, all these other different books that they study, who are very religious. They are the ones who would be more interested in this subject. But let me make it very clear. Even if one were found and one were burnt, it does not mean the immediate building of the temple. And so be careful who you listen to. Be careful of all the sensationalism. And anytime something big happens or there's some kind of a new news story, there's always a little bit of sensationalism. Some self-acclaimed prophet that has this great prophetic word or whatever. And really, these are a lot of people that, in my personal opinion, and I'm saying this sincerely, are trying to simply get a channel built or trying to build up a channel by using a lot of times other people's information and talking about it. So in other words, if you were with me in the 80s, you already know all this. This is nothing new, but just be careful about it being over sensationalized and everybody getting on the bandwagon that it's this major end time sign. They have been working on this for many years. And again, from the Jewish perspective of Jews who desire a temple to rebuild, it is an important subject, and it is something that they would be required to have by their law and by their traditions in order for there to be a building constructed and it be sanctified with the water of purification. The ashes were dipped in spring water back in the time of the temples to sanctify or cleanse a person that was unclean. So there's a whole story behind it. It's very detailed. But I just wanted to say, I told some of you 40 years ago. And that's what this teaching wanted to share with you. So I hope this has maybe helped you in some area and kind of clarified a few things. This could be a long teaching if we wanted to make it that, but we always try to keep our teachings 8 to 10 minutes on YouTube if possible. Give it a thumbs up if you learn things from us. Subscribe to the channel and keep watching. We always have something at the end. Ladies and gentlemen, have you noticed, have you observed that the battles are intensifying? The mental battles, spiritual battles, physical infirmities. I've never seen a time when so many good Christian people are experiencing strange sicknesses and attacks of the enemy. Some time back, we did something very unique. It took me 1 year to study this subject, and I decided to take the 80 pages of notes or so that I had and take a platform at the Omega Center International and take the armor of God and so many other things and illustrate to you what Paul was talking about in the book of Ephesians. I want to make available to you today this 7-disc. These are 7 DVDs, and it's a series called Ephesians in Depth, The Warrior's Strategy. On disc 1, we're going to talk about Christianity versus the Roman Empire. Disc 2, Walking and Warring as a Christian. Disc 3, oh, this one is deep. Wrestling with the satanic spirits that Paul alluded to in the book of Ephesians. Disc 4, The Armor of the Christian Warrior, and it's all illustrated. Disc 5, When the Word Becomes a Sword for Battle. There's 3 parts to that. You only saw 2 on Manna-Fest. Disc 6, Caring for and Anointing the Shield in the Time of Battle, and Feet that Can Stand and Not Slip in the Conflict. Again, all illustrated. And disc 7, 4-part series, The Christian's Battle Strategy in the Time of the End. Now, these 23 different lessons, 30-minute segments each, almost 12 hours of teaching. How do you get it? You go to perrystone.org, 1-888-21-BREAD, or write and send in a check at Perry Stone, P.O. Box 3595, Cleveland, Tennessee, 37320. We're going to do a very special offer for $75 or more. Your donation is $75 or more. Request it. The offer number is on the screen right now, and ask for this series, all DVD, all illustrated messages. Once again, you can go through the 3 methods to order, but I'm going to ask you to do it today. And it is for a donation of $75 or more. Now, that's amazing because these are 7 DVDs. And again, it's 30-minute segments with 23 different lessons. It would actually be great for a home Bible study, for a church group, or personally for you to sit at home and get this word in you to help you defeat the enemy and overcome these end-time battles that Satan is sending into your life. We're looking to hear from you, and to keep Manna-Fest on the air, it's important that you respond to these offers. Keep watching. God bless you.
If you enjoyed this YouTube content, there's an important website you should know about: perrystone.org. Perrystone.org is an essential resource for the latest books, audiovisual presentations, and digital products from Perry Stone Ministries. Resources that cover the same kinds of topics discussed in the program you just watched. Stop in and see all that's available at perrystone.org.